Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal Studios. Happy to be hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life, and always proud to be here with all of our fantastic guests. Over 3,000 wonderful people have graced the stage here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and one of those individuals that I talked with when he was getting recruited and during his time at Syracuse, and now after that time, is Mr. Aaron Hackett, who is joining me here today. Comes from Venice, Florida, and we have a lot to discuss: his time at Syracuse, transferring, as well as what he's doing now for postgame and working with name, image, and likeness, trying to do things the right way, and continuing to look at his career with the upcoming XFL draft in 2023. So with that being said, Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on my show. Always a great place to tell a story. And like you said, been at this since I was getting recruited to Syracuse. So through that process of recruiting to being a player to where I am post-career, always been great to get on the show with you.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate it. I know we've gotten to have some really nice heart-to-hearts off the air as well. And I just want to thank you for the human being that you've been to me, and just, seeing me for who I am, and building that relationship and that bond, which goes beyond football. So more than anything else, I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love being on the show, and anytime I get to come on here, man, it's always a pleasure. So excited for today.
So going to your Syracuse time, you commit to Syracuse. You and I had conversations about all of this, and you coming in and ultimately making that decision to come to the Orange. Looking back on it, hindsight 2020, what do you think about your decision to commit and come to Syracuse, and overall just your experience that you got while you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. And just, plucking a kid like myself out of South Florida, coming all the way up to Central New York and making that home for me was amazing. And I'm so thankful for the people I met in the time, and the community around Syracuse, because it really was a picture perfect 4 years. You know what I mean? I've made lifelong bonds with friends, coaches, teammates that I'll cherish those relationships forever. So, we had a couple great years. I've definitely faced some adversity throughout my career, but wouldn't trade it for the world. And I'm proud to be a Syracuse alum, and I'll always bleed orange. And absolutely, man, I'm just so thankful for the opportunity that Coach Babers and them gave me, and gonna forever be orange. So.
And you have that, time in our history where you and Luke Benson, in my opinion, brought the best tight end tandem in a very long time. Really brought the tight end back to the Syracuse football world, because it had been absent. We had Nick Provo, his younger brother Tyler Provo, and then there was kind of a lull. Ron Thompson played both sides of the ball, but it got quiet when it came to utilizing the tight end offensively in the passing game. I, as you know, believe that it should have been used so much more. And it's not just because I know you, and not just because I've been around you and Luke, but there was something about what you guys did, how automatic you were. And in an offense that was always struggling to find something that worked, I felt like the one thing that was working was the tight end, and they kept going away from it. So how did you experience that? And how do you, as one of the players within that, say, okay, well, when Luke and I are out here and you fake somebody running, then you toss it over top and you set up these different plays for us in the end zone, we're almost automatic, but it's so seldom. How did you handle we're very, very effective, but it's almost never used?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you talked about, there was about a 3-week stretch during that 2019 season where I think me and Luke combined for 5 touchdowns. And it just seemed like anytime we got into the RPO play action game that we were popping open. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely frustration along the way. I would like to thank, obviously, Coach Fareed, because those opportunities probably wouldn't have came had we not been so dedicated to blocking and being in the trenches and putting an emphasis on that. So our involvement in the run game and how all those things tied together was huge. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see this offense kind of move towards utilizing the tight end, especially on some of the red zone RPO stuff that they love to do. And it just kind of goes year to year basis. Obviously, we had that great year in 2019. My freshman campaign with Ravion Pierce, he had a breakout season. So it just, it kind of depended year to year. Yeah, I wish they would have got us the ball a little bit more, but at the end of the day, you're going to do what the play is called. You're going to do your task. And I think that, that year that everyone saw us catch all those touchdowns, they also didn't think about how hard we blocked and what we meant to the run game. even adding Chris Elmore into that mix, you know what I mean? Getting in 12 personnel with a tight end and a fullback in the game and running the football. My last year, you know, the emergence of Sean Tucker, I felt that was huge for him. We basically would just run ISO and you know, one-on-one with the linebacker, and Sean would read off me. And you know, how dynamic of a back he is. You kind of understand sometimes your touches are going to go down. But yeah, there was frustrating points, and you know, I look back on it, obviously tied with the most career touchdowns by anyone in Syracuse history from a tight end swing. And I'm grateful, but touching on what you said, I think there definitely could have been more.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. You know, the tight end is sometimes a thankless job, and you know, I think for me, it's being that thankless job and an extension of the offensive line. You know, when you're blocking and you're not involved in the passing game, people aren't saying much, right? If somebody's running the ball, they're looking at the person running the ball. If there's good protection, they're looking at the quarterback being protected and can he get the ball down the field. But they're not always looking at the line, almost never. And they're not always looking at the tight end. So when we look back on your time at Syracuse, what can you say about the fact that even though you weren't used in the passing game as much as I think you should have been, that there were other things you were doing that maybe the XFL or somebody else would see on film?
Yeah, it just gave me opportunity to be well-rounded. You know, myself, I'm not, I guess from a physical standpoint, the most athletic guy, but you know, being able to put myself in a bunch of different positions and do a lot of different things allowed me the opportunity to get on the field and make an impact for the teams I play for in Syracuse and possibly in the future. You know, I going through the process of pro day and everything like that, I saw a lot of teams kind of viewed me as a fullback, H-back position, a guy who can do a lot of those things. So being comfortable with a versatile role is definitely huge, especially in the Syracuse offense, right? Where you're tasked to do things from the backfield. They might split you out. They're definitely going to put you in line, but you better know how to block or else it's going to be hard path onto the field.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing, is having that blocking side of that working in your favor. And, you know, just, I mean, like I said, a thankless job, but do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy blocking? Are there things about it that you've really just, you know, have been become maybe like second nature to you when it comes to that side of it? Because when you see, you know, the tight ends that we hear about are the Tony Gonzalez's of the world, right? The Kyle Pitts of the world, the Travis Kelce's. And why do we hear about them? Mark Andrews, because they receive the ball and they're part of their wide receiving core, even though they're not a wide receiver. So when you look at the other side of it and the blocking side, are there things that have become second nature that you really enjoy doing at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved anytime I got a chance to be involved in the run game, especially when, you know, all the dynamic running backs we had at my time at Syracuse. It's really fun to, you know, put your body on the line, maybe throw a cut or, you know, come in pulling around on a pull play and hitting a linebacker and seeing Mo Neal or Dante Strickland or Sean Tucker just burst one and take it down the sideline. So that's a great feeling. And, you know, not everything is told in the stat sheets. I'm a firm believer, especially from a tight end position. So there was things that I had to get really good at and that had to become second nature to me just in order to help the team win and help me kind of, you know, get through the game. Like if I knew if I wasn't going to take the right first step, or maybe I was a snap count off the ball late, like I was probably going to get beat. So to emphasize on the details and really work on those little things on my craft that allowed me to get better in the run game was amazing.
Speaking here with Aaron Hackett here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Syracuse Orange football alum, and we're going to get into a lot of other things here with NIL and whatnot. You did decide to transfer out of Syracuse. You had an opportunity to go to TCU. You and I spoke when that was supposed to happen. You ended up at Kent State. You're part of this world that we live in where people don't see it. You know, how different loopholes and other people. I mean, I remember when I was graduating from Marywood University, I had a teacher try to prevent me from graduating. He was just a very interesting human being. And there was a loophole that I took, and this will make no sense to you, Aaron. I took too many credits. And so because I took a sports class that was supposed to be a half a credit and I took 3 credits instead, and I pushed myself more, he found a loophole. And while I was in the hospital after I got my tonsils out and rehabbing from the infection and stuff that had gotten into them and just the way that I had felt, I was at home for a month, and I had a teacher try to prevent me from graduating because of this very strange loophole. Well, when you try to go to TCU and ended up at Kent State, fans think this, that, and the other, but nobody knows the full story. and you're free to tell as much of it as you'd like to tell. But I love for you to share the fact that things aren't as always as easy as they seem. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the student athlete when these loopholes happen. And I feel like, it's unfortunate, but you're one of those student athletes that fell into one of those cracks where you had a lot of teams recruiting you, but there was this stipulation that you didn't really know about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that something a lot of the fans don't realize is that anytime someone enters the transfer portal or they may be changing schools, a lot of times that athlete does not, that decision does not lie to them. And just from a personal standpoint, like we talked about, I had a great career at Syracuse, put my body on the line, fingers looking crazy, like they'll be like that the rest of my life. And, I was asked to leave. Frankly, Coach Babers really going into my 5th year didn't see me getting on the field or helping the team. So I was asked to leave. And, a guy like myself, when you're kind of pushed out the door a little bit, I wanted to play another year of college football. I didn't want to sit behind a younger guy here at Syracuse or not be wanted by a coaching staff. So that played in my decision to leave completely. I don't know if I would have left Syracuse if I wasn't asked. And so, like you said, entered the transfer portal, had a lot of really great options to go out to the play in the Big 12, even the SEC. But, when I left Syracuse, I had 1 semester left of schoolwork. And then I had an internship, about a 6-week internship that I had to complete in order to certify my degree. Well, unbeknownst to me, that I finished all my coursework, but that 6-week internship had to be started once the semester ended. Syracuse had some things. This is obviously coming out of COVID, where the summer session got canceled. And realistically, I wasn't going to be able to get on campus. And I didn't know this until late, but I wasn't going to be able to get on campus at TCU until, mid-August, late August. So it would have been halfway, more than halfway through camp. So that really wasn't an option. And, shout out Sean Lewis, taking care of me, being able to get me into Kent State as an undergrad transfer, because I wouldn't have been able to do that at TCU. You need to have 80% of your degree, and my credits just weren't going to transfer. So, shout out to Coach Lewis. He took me in on short notice and, got to have a great year over there. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand. And even from an athlete's perspective, like when you enter the transfer portal and they tell you they'll pay for your school and they'll do this and that, like you don't just hear it for the words. Make sure everything is behind it. Because like I said, I finished my season at Kent State. I had to go back to Syracuse to get my degree, and I had to pay for it, which is, getting pushed out of school and then having to come back and pay for the degree. That's why I went to Syracuse. So I'll make an investment on myself and pay for a semester of school. But like I said, it's not always guys who willingly enter the transfer portal. And a guy like me who, has put his body on the line. I never missed a game at Syracuse University. I've been taken out on the back of an ambulance to the hospital against Louisville. I've played through a lot of injuries. So to kind of not be treated like that, but the fans, I want them to know that, I never would have left Syracuse if I wasn't pushed out. And so, yeah, that definitely plays into it. And there's a side of the transfer portal that a lot of people don't know. And, that's why I say a guy like myself, I'm a Syracuse alum. Like I will be a fan of Orange sports till I die. And so I just want to clear that up to the fan base that, not every guy you see enter the transfer portal, even if they're a big time player on the team, they don't necessarily always enter that willingly. So.
And for you to have to go through that, like you said, being forced out, that you felt pushed out the door, and the fact that you didn't want to leave, that to me is a very unfortunate situation. I'm sad that you had to go through something like that. But like you said, when you put your body on the line, your blood, your sweat, your tears, you get taken in the back of an ambulance out of that Louisville game. How have you found peace with the fact that the school that you gave your everything to, that coaching staff was like, yeah, you need to get out of here? And like you said, the transfer portal, they think, oh, this kid's just running away from the program. He doesn't care about us. Screw him. And you go on social media and you could just see things about you, about anybody, like, oh, if you're not with, like, I remember I did a show with Taj Harris, and when he had originally committed to Kentucky, I did an exclusive with him. And I had, not many, most people were happy to hear from him or watch the show, but you always get a couple knuckleheads, and I don't want to give any credence to them, but it's only to the example that you gave. One of the people wrote to me and said, why would you even talk to him? And he was mad at me for doing an interview with this guy. I said, number one, I owe nothing to you. I am friends with these, and it, I'm friends with guys. Like I build relationships through my job. that become personal and professional. I'm not just there to get a story. I care about the people. So I care about you. I care about Taj. I was going to talk to Taj no matter what. And I also know that, did Taj make mistakes in his time there? Yeah, he did some things, but I talked to him like a friend, and I actually wanted him to see what he did and get better. Somebody makes a mistake in today's world, they write you off for the rest of your life. Taj made a mistake at a camera, and then we talked about his leadership afterward and what he was going to do to make it better.
Mhm.
So in Taj's case, I really felt that. I felt like not only were they mad at him, but they were even, their anger came out to me, like, how dare you talk to the guy that screwed us over? So I
Yeah.
think it's right for you to tell your story of not wanting to leave Syracuse, getting pushed out the door, and being put in a situation you didn't want to be in, because fans will turn around and go, well, thanks, Aaron, for nothing. You turned your back on us. Where the true story is, unfortunately, the program turned its back on you.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, there's tough conversations to be had, and that's high level college football, right? Like, we're playing in the ACC. I understand that, but I don't think the fans, they see it from Aaron Hackett that enters the transfer portal, and not, you know what I mean? Like, there's, if a coach tells you that he doesn't foresee you playing next year, he doesn't see you coming back, which were his exact words to me, I would say that, yeah, you're kind of pushed out of the door. And I didn't take, I'm not hurt by it. I always loved the university. It gave me 4 great years. I always loved the football team, just because, me and those guys, everyone who's played before us and after us, we will always have that bond of Syracuse Orange football players. And that lasts a lifetime to me. But I mean, yeah, I'm just like I said, I'd love to come on the show and kind of explain that, because I don't ever want SU fans to be like, oh, Aaron Hackett, he had a great career at Syracuse, but he decided to transfer. When in contrary, I didn't really have an option. So I'll always be thankful to the Syracuse fan base, especially the guys and girls who come out every Saturday in the Loud House and make it the best atmosphere in college football, especially with the redone dome. And I'll always be thankful of the great time and experience I had. But yeah, absolutely, it did hurt, and there were certain things I had to come to terms with. But at a point where I'm in my professional career and kind of overplaying college football, I understand it. It taught me a lot of valuable lessons. Syracuse University put me in a position I am today to be able to go and work at post game and work directly with college athletes right out of college. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, they just owe you a semester of
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, I'm still going through it with the Bursar office, and yeah, but I do. It has gotten to a point where, yes, I do have to take out my own loan, and like I said, I've talked to Mr. Wildhack about this, and apparently there's nothing that can be done. But for a guy who has put his body on the line multiple times, never missed a game, you think they would make some inclusion or make something happen. But yeah, that's where we're at today.
And I think that's one of the things you hear the most, right? Is that you guys get a free education. So that's why I think it's important to not only show that you were, like, in your words, that you were told, I don't foresee you being a part of this program. So you really didn't have a choice. If you were going to stay there, you weren't going to play.
Mhm.
So to hear from the coaching staff that brought you in, hey, we don't really see you playing here. And they go, okay, well, I just gave you everything. I moved up here from Florida. I am, I'm over 1,000 miles from my family. I came to this school with a vision and a mission to, obviously play college ball, but also, I would think to go to the NFL or to go
Mhm.
to play professionally somewhere. So you go through all of that. Then they tell you, hey, you know what? We're turning our back on you. By the way, if you transfer, this is all you got to do. And you go, okay, I'll do it. And then you find out that the school that knocked you once knocked you twice, because now you can't go to TCU, you can't go to these SEC schools, you can't go to some of these places that recruited you, and that Kent State was able to find a way, thank God. But that's why I think it's imperative to tell this story, Aaron, because you're one of the kids that literally did get thrown into a crack. It was like, when the school you were at was done with you, it didn't matter to them that you couldn't play anywhere else. It didn't
Yeah.
matter to them that your eligibility was going to be shaken. It didn't matter to them that you're trying to make the NFL. They push you out, and then they put you in a situation where you couldn't succeed. And the transfer portal, before we got it, I remember Jordan Frederick saying this to me, who played running back at Syracuse. He kept trying to play, and they said, lose weight, do this, do that. And he said, he's like, I did everything I was asked to do. And then Syracuse, it's still with Dino, wouldn't play him, wouldn't put him out there, and wouldn't really tell him what was going to happen. So he goes to transfer, and the 3 schools that wanted him the most, Dino put on a list and said, you can't go to any of these schools. And he said, but this is like, you don't want me. I want to go somewhere I want it. Yeah, but I don't want you to go to these places. With the new transfer portal, a coach can't do that. They can't give you a list and tell you where not to go. So I love that about the transfer portal. And that, but the thing in your case that I don't like is that the school that was kicking you out the door is also the school that's now taking your money, and the school that didn't tell you how things were actually going to go. And because they led you down the wrong path and didn't prepare you for what was supposed to happen, you weren't able to do what you needed to do to be able to transfer correctly. And when somebody tells you something that's not the truth, or maybe in that moment they didn't know and they just said something, for somebody to lead you down the wrong path, they go to work the next day, but your career was forever changed by that. And that's something I think people need to know, because they're always blaming the student athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you try to come back to the school, you know, getting recruited by Syracuse, they sell you 40 years, not 4, you know, you're going to get your degree no matter what. Well, you know, that was their reasoning for not paying for my school. And another thing a lot of people don't know is that when you come to Syracuse, right, I went to Syracuse and I wanted to be David B. Falk School of Sports Management. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I went to Syracuse. That's the field I'm in now. And when I got to Syracuse for my first about year and a half, this is why I was a little bit behind credits, is because they funnel all the guys into a major that's unlisted. And really, it's either you need to get a 3.5 or a 4.0 GPA to transfer into something like David B. Falk School of Sports Management, which I did. That's why it took me a little longer, is because I had to get my GPA up. But they kind of filter you into these majors that you might not get an education in something you care about. And there's a lot of SU athletes who maybe have degrees where they wanted to be in Whitman or something else, and they just weren't able to do it. I made sure that I was going to get my degree, and I was going to, you know, go to David B. Falk School of Sports Management, get my degree from there, learn about, you know, the sports business world and everything that goes on there. So I was headstrong about doing that, and that's kind of what set me behind, because I don't think I ever failed a class in college. I wasn't a bad student. I made sure I did everything when it was due. You know, my grades were okay, and it was just kind of an unfortunate circumstance that I couldn't get my degree in time to transfer. But, you know, there was obviously some issues on my end, and could I have been more, you know, prevalent to the situation that was going on, or done more research? Yeah, probably. But, you know, when you're kind of, like you said, kicked to the curb and looking for a new school, you're just hearing what you want to hear. Like, yeah, you guys will get me there in July. Awesome. Sounds good. Here's my transcript. Everything's going to be all right. And unfortunately, it doesn't always turn out that way.
Yeah, you know, and so going through what you went through, what would be, speaking here with Aaron Hackett of Syracuse Orange football history, as we get set to talk on the bigger picture of things here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cue Ball studios, I would love to get your advice to student athletes out there right now that are getting ready to go to college, that are being recruited. Now that hindsight is 2020, what should they look for? Which I know that everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different, but if you could give any advice to the young men and women out there that are trying to decipher who's telling them the truth and what could be a good fit, what would be your advice to them out there now, as you know firsthand what it's like to be lied to, and for it to cost you time, money, and, you know, probably some heartache?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, especially from an academic standpoint, is that, you know, when you're taking your visits to colleges and everything, make sure that the programs they're showing you are a program that you could get into. Because I remember on my official visit, they took me, I remember it clear as day, they took me and Nakeem Johnson to Newhouse School. And, you know, we sat behind the mics like we were going to be sports broadcasters. And I get there in fall or in summer for my freshman year, and I'm in Falk undecided major, and there's no really route for me. You know, I could transfer into social work, or I could do human development and family studies, but those aren't really things that interest me. And so I would just make sure that a lot of times on these recruiting visits, they'll show you the best schools you could get into, but just make sure there's no stipulation that for you to get into those schools, or there's no requirements that they're going to bring you in there as unregistered or unlisted. But like I said, I have no hard feelings towards Syracuse University. You know, I wouldn't say they lied to me directly, but in terms of just kind of pushing me out the door and maybe not giving me a full scope on everything that's happening is the reason I had to come back and get my degree and ultimately pay, almost $40,000 out of my pocket for it. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's something you never hear from student athletes, right? You never hear.
Yeah, and it's like, we'll take care of you, come here, get your SU degree. We'll do everything to make sure you get your SU degree. But here's a guy like me. I just got done playing at Kent. I'm trying to come back and get my degree, and not even to take a class, but to do an internship. And I'm getting charged that price. So again, I mean, no, Syracuse is an expensive school. I was going to get my degree no matter what. If I had to take out a loan or not, it was going to happen because, the weight a degree from Syracuse University holds, and how my education was there and how much I learned. I wanted that on my resume, but yeah, definitely hurtful for sure.
Well, if you ever need an internship, Dan Tortora Broadcast Media is all about that management side of things, business side. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of our multimedia company. So
awesome. Congrats to you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you need some help where there's going to be transparency, you know where to go. So with that being said, you are at postgame right now, and I would love for you to tell people what postgame is. I know you're wearing it there on your chest, and would love to for you to expand on this. People can go to home.pstgm.com to check out postgame and get some more information on this. And as it says on the homepage, postgame connects brands to 60,000 plus college athletes. Would love to get your story on why you chose to work at postgame and what they truly do to fit into this NIL world today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was fortunate enough to kind of walk into a position here at postgame. It's about 15 minutes from my hometown of Venice. We're located in Sarasota, Florida. And we're a full service agency that connects, hundreds and hundreds of athletes to national brand partnerships and NIL deals. I think we work on the side that NIL was created for, getting guys marketing deals, allowing them to profit off their name, image, and likeness and tell a story and use their social media to get paid. So, yeah, it's been great. It's allowed me to kind of stay in the loop, stay working with college athletics. I think ultimately people talk a lot about NIL, but from a marketing standpoint and what it was meant to do, I think we're doing it the right way, and it's had huge benefits. I mean, just this weekend, we shot a Crocs commercial ad down here, Sarasota, Florida, with two local guys, Malachi Wyman, who's at Jackson State, and then Jay Sean Platt, who's at FAU. And we're able to kind of, not only give these guys money to fly home on a weekend and do a shoot like that, but, inform them about taking care of their brands, marketing themselves and everything like that. Here at postgame, we don't take any commission from athletes. We also don't sign athletes. So like you said, we have over 60,000 users on our platform. So, we run large scale marketing campaigns for national brands, and they put us in charge of whether it's 50 athletes or 500 athletes is getting these guys informed, getting them to the campaigns and getting them paid ultimately.
So how does postgame, when you don't take any commission from the student athlete, how do you make money? I mean, do you become an agency for these, like, let's say, okay, I'm representing Monster Energy. Okay. So I'm representing Monster Energy, and I am wanting to work with, these 20 student athletes in the state of Florida. And then do I call you up and say, hey, I need you to, like, how does the business and the student athlete and you all connect? And then how does ultimately postgame make revenue on that?
Yeah. So we have a free to use platform. It's in the App Store, labeled under postgame. And basically athletes just sign up. All they have to do is put their username, Instagram, email, and phone number. And then we'll alert them anytime we have a campaign with a large brand. So like right now we just did Crocs, got some guys in Syracuse in the deal. So they'll get a text here shortly, just kind of alerting them, hey, you've been chosen by Crocs. Here are the requirements of the campaign. Here's how you fill it out. Like I said, though, we work at scale. So we're doing campaigns, 50 is probably the smallest, and all the way up to hundreds and thousands of athletes. So in terms of what we do on our side is we manage those campaigns, and that's where we're valuable to the brands. But yeah, it's been great. And just, like I said, everyone talks about NIL and it's this big bad thing, and people are getting paid to play. But what they don't understand is that majority of athletes out here aren't getting paid. And whether it be Syracuse football or, UCLA volleyball or Florida State soccer, there's hundreds of athletes out there who have not gotten endorsement deals. And that's where we come in. We try to connect them and allow them to get seen in front of national brands, get them in our campaigns, and, hopefully ultimately get them paid.
Yeah. And so I mean, for post game, what do you think the value is for the businesses, right? For the companies, for the brands, what is their value to come to you specifically and let you be a part of this?
Yeah, so I mean, NIL is so new and fresh, and it kind of just launched a year ago. So, we saw over the last year that companies are kind of dabbling their foot in, and whether it be that they go all in chips with one athlete and, just throw money at one premier guy, or they try to do a small number of 10. I think a lot of brands were recognizing the power in numbers and the reach that these athletes have. So, instead of paying one athlete $50,000, your Bryce Youngs, your top tier college football players, if you pay 50 athletes $1,000 across the whole spectrum of different sports, you know what I mean, different genders, different geography locations, like that's ultimately more powering as a marketing tool. And so I think companies who have worked with us in the past see how well we manage campaign. They see the great content that comes out from post game, working with these athletes in terms of their creativity and uniqueness. Athletes, I mean, some of the campaigns we've done, the athletes kind of have the free, here, go do what you want, just show the product. And we've got some really creative ideas coming back. Yeah, it's been amazing. And like I said, we've worked with female athletes, actually female only campaigns. We just had one with Lulu's, a women's clothing brand, where we had a large number of female athletes participate. Not only did they get paid, but they also got a bunch of free Lulu's gear. So it's been awesome.
And speaking here with Aaron Hackett, coming to us, Syracuse alum, Kent State alum, and now working at Postgame, working with name, image, and likeness. You said trying to do things the right way, as we talk about this inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in the Cafe Kubal studios. What is the right way to do name, image, and likeness in your definition?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a complex question, and especially I would say at the top tier, college football, college basketball. There's a lot of wild things going on, and guys, I want guys to get paid as much as someone's willing to pay them. So I'll never say that there's a right or wrong way to do things. And if someone's paying you $9.5 million to do a marketing deal, I think that you should get $9.5 million. Now, from a marketing side, that might not be the best strategy for a company, but if they want to do it, hey, power to the players. Like I said, a guy like me who had to come back and get his degree and was on my own, you never know how long your football career is going to go. So, take advantage of it, get as much money as possible. Now, where I think things need to change is maybe in the tampering side of things and in the transfer portal and guys going somewhere specifically for an NIL value, things that may have been going on in college football, for the last 100 years anyways, but they've happened under the table. They're a little bit more out in the open. So I would say to kind of just get some more unification on there. But again, like I'm never going to complain about student athletes getting paid and whatever the number is. I think that's great. I think the tampering thing, and I kind of know just being that former athlete and having guys on the inside who maybe have trained through universities, that there is some of that going on out there. And I don't think that's right at all. I don't think NIL should be used as a recruiting tool to come somewhere, because like ultimately I went to Syracuse based on trying to get that great degree. And, I'm thankful I did that. So I think there's other things that need to come into play. But yeah, like I said, as much money as the athletes can get, let them have it. We work with national brands, so we're not doing anything really on the local side here. We're just strictly trying to provide athletes an opportunity to get into national endorsement deals.
And you said it, the tampering side of it, that's wrong, and using the money of NIL to bring somebody there. That brings me into the collective, right? Where in the past, a booster couldn't walk up to Aaron Hackett at Syracuse and shake your hand with $1,000 in it. But now a booster can put $1,000 into an account, and that account can be used to recruit you. So it's not any different than what would be an NCAA violation in the past. So what are your thoughts on collectives? Because some coaches, like when I was at ACC kickoff, talked about it openly, said, let's get money in the collective. They said that, they literally stood on stage and said, we got to get our people involved in putting money in the collective. So what are your thoughts on the fact that, if you, me, and 3 other people were boosters and we're all millionaires and we decide to contribute $1 million a piece, and then we just go, hey, Syracuse, here's $5 million. We're going to put it into an account, use it how you need to. And the fact that really has no restriction at all, that $5 million can be dispersed.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to the point where it's like, the more money to the players, the better, right? We've been stripped of our name, image, and likeness for so long. You know what I mean? Think about back to Terrell Pryor getting free tattoos and signing autographs, and him getting suspended for a whole year, you know, having to enter the supplemental draft and basically ruin his career. Like there's been serious sanctions that have gone on over the last 100 years. So I would say, again, the more money to the players, the better. Now, I don't think that the schools should probably be involved. And I think outside of the coaches, it should be, you know, it should go outside of there.
Yeah.
But again, like as long as there's no tampering, I think it's a great opportunity. Listen, I've had teammates at Syracuse get their stipend check and send half of it or more directly home. I've had roommates who have had to do it, right? Like guys who come from seriously hard situations, and an extra $1,000, extra $2,000, extra $3,000 a month would make a huge difference for guys like that. And why should we be able to enjoy these guys every Saturday? And all the money's not going to them. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line. Ultimately, they're the ones suffering, you know, lifelong damage, most likely,
Yeah.
For the game they love. And like you said, everyone wants to go, oh, well, they get a free education. Well, I promise you that as things happen and it doesn't always turn out to be free, or guys don't always get their degree. And I think, at least from a monetary standpoint, I would love to see as many athletes get paid as possible while they're in their prime. Less than 3% of college football players make it to the NFL. You know, that transition, that pivot from being a football player to something else is extremely hard. So to have some extra money in the bank, I would say all for it.
And you experience firsthand that a school will use you as much as you're useful to them. And then when you're not useful to them, you're out in the open. And that, in that sense of it, experiencing that makes you even want name, image, and likeness more, to say, well, if I'm only good for you for the few years that you want me here, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if that's the use that you have, like you said, selling, this isn't 4 years, this is 40 years. If that's not the case, and that's not the truth, and we see that all over the country, right? Where you come in and you're the star running back, and after the 4 years that you're the star running back, you don't matter anymore. Some schools are really good at keeping that.
Some schools are really good at keeping that, and there's others that aren't. And I agree with you. And there's some schools who, you know, reach back out to their alumni. And I'm a fresh alumni at Syracuse, so I'm not saying one way or the other. But you know, there's some schools who really put an emphasis on alumni and really thankful for the guys who gave their body and their time to that university, and will always celebrate them. And then there's other ones who kind of will pretend you didn't exist, or you left on your own terms or something like that. So absolutely.
You know, and in that case, it even more so hits with name, image, and likeness, saying, okay, well, let's say it's your son or your daughter, and let's paint a picture here, right? So let's say to Jim and Jill Smith that your daughter is playing on the women's basketball team, and they tell her, oh, you're going to be with us forever, and we care about you forever, and we get your degree, yada, yada, yada. And she can't get an NIL deal, but let's say she's one of the top 4 players in women's basketball in the entire country, and they're making money like a UConn, making money off of her. And at the end of it all, she got nothing for it. And then the university was like, well, whatever. After 3 years, we're bringing in somebody else. So why don't you transfer? Going to her story and liking it to your story in respect here, looking at that story itself, they got hundreds of thousands, you know, they got thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars off of her. And now that she's gone, they'll continue to talk about her. They'll continue to sell jerseys. They might continue to put something out there, but she's never going to make any money off of that. I'm a proponent that if I came to Syracuse, if I came to Florida State, if I came to Miami, wherever I was, and I wore number 21 and I went out on the field or I went out on the court for you, I should be making that money. Tortora should be on the back of that jersey, because everybody knows why you bought it. If you bought that jersey within the last 4 years and on that basketball court and it was 21, we know it was me. So at least, 5%, 10%, something, because like you said, the percentage is so tiny. So that's the only time I have to make it. Because let's say I play at Syracuse, I wear 21, I got 4 years, the NBA doesn't take me, I go to the G League for a little bit, I play overseas, and then I come home, and at 30, 32 years old, I have to start my life over, not start my life over, but I have to go into this other chapter. Well, what happened with all the hundreds of thousands of dollars that Syracuse made off of my jerseys? I would want that, because if I never got to the NBA and I never got that $25 million contract, that $100 million contract, then that $2,000 is going to mean a hell of a lot more to me and my family that I could have gotten when I was 19 years old.
Absolutely. And that's the great thing about NIL, is that those opportunities are now there, at least from a marketing standpoint of that. You know what I mean? We don't, it doesn't matter who the boosters are at your school. It doesn't matter if you play big time college football or basketball. Like if you're an athlete and you have some sort of social media following, like we will get you in deals. We will get you paid. And I think that's the great aspect of it is, like you said, like athletes can now put out their own jerseys, their own merchandise. Shout out my boy Chris Elmore, because I definitely got to get some of that fullback, tight end, O-line what he's got going. That's fire. So I love the Rhino. But yeah, I mean, I just think that we're in a new era of college football, and we're seeing a lot of change. Like if you want to talk about money, like when will we ever thought that USC and UCLA would come over to the Big Ten? And at the end of the day, it boils down to TV money and what's going on. So people still outside the athletes aren't getting paid. Like the athletes aren't really touching any of that TV deal too either. I hope they do down the line, and I hope that gets negotiated eventually. But as of now, these multi-$100 million TV deals, athletes aren't touching any of that either.
Well, that's the thing is the student athlete is making the program money, which is making the department money, which is making the school money, which is making the community money. So if they don't see that money, but you took them out of, and this is what I tell people all the time, name, image, and likeness has a lot of problems because it has no restrictions, and it was put out into the world without any. Okay, what I try to do in my world as I look at preconceived not preconceived, but I try to anticipate the issue to start to work on the solution. And what they did with name, image, and likeness is whether or not they thought about what could be the problems, they didn't do anything to find the solutions. That's why we're exactly where I thought we would. I'm not surprised by anything. I was listening to a show on Sirius XM, and they said, raise your hand if you're somebody that thought it would get this bad. And I was like, who wouldn't? You know,
what's bad about it? Like, I just don't understand what is so bad. I guess that teams and culture are changing and the change. But again, like I see no problem from my perspective of these athletes getting paid, because I know what we've been through. I've just been through it. I know the situations that my teammates have been through. And it's like, at the end of the day, if they can help themselves and help their families any little bit, that's the most valuable thing. These are the guys going on the field. They're going to battle. Conference realignment, like there's tradition and everything involved. And I know, but people talk about it like from this horrible standpoint. And what I see is that young men and women are getting paid across the country who deserve it. And that's why I love NIL.
Yeah. And what I'm talking about with the problem is that if it's left up to states, you have 50 different states that could have 50 different plans. And on top of that, what we've talked about with it being used as a recruiting tool and name, image, and likeness being used is like, if you come to Florida State and let's say the head coach has a buddy that runs a Ford dealership, and he's like, hey, why don't you come meet with us on campus at 3:00 and tell him if he comes here, he'll get $100,000 just for signing with us. So it's when it's used in recruiting, it's when it's used as an advantage, and it's where the haves will continue to have and the have-nots will continue to have not. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with a student athlete making money because we've agreed on that. It's the tampering, it's the involvement of boosters, and it's all the things that can come from that, where let's say you're at Syracuse and you're the starting tight end. So the Toyota dealership pays you $150,000. Then Dino decides to bench you because he would rather play Luke Benson, right? So then the dealership comes back to you and says, well, every commercial break that we have during an SU game, we're showing Aaron Hackett's face for $150,000, and he's not playing. He's sitting on the bench. He hasn't played in 3 games. So now they want to pull it from you and give it to Luke. So now you and Luke are going back and forth.
But they can't. They can't do that. And that's the great thing about it is like if you want to invest 9 point whatever to an athlete coming to school and they bust, like you got to pay him that money if it happens or not. So that's like the good thing about it is like if Toyota wanted to give me a brand new truck when I was at Syracuse, I would have loved to have that. And I think I would have deserved it, because even if they take it away, that's still in the deal that I'm getting that car. And I think that's like what a lot of people don't understand. And it causes some friction in the locker room. I could definitely see that. Especially some of the numbers are just so gaudy that it's like, hey, is this even sustainable? You know what I mean? But even locally, like, hey, you want to support, you're a booster and you want to support Syracuse football. I mean, you can continue to give donations to build, brand new facilities and everything. And that's great. But I bet you a lot of these guys who are playing on the team could use $500, $1,000 each month. And I promise you the money that they're getting is going to, it's going to benefit them more than it would going to the weight room. We've got a plenty nice weight room.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing as you talk about it, you're not the first student athlete and at Syracuse to talk about the fact that you send, people that send the checks home when you get stipends for this and they think, oh, well, you're getting a free education and you're getting a stipend. It's like, well, I'm getting a free education that my family would never be able to afford. And I'm sending the stipend home to my family that doesn't have any money. So I might be coming to school being poor. I might be a Division I student athlete making absolutely nothing. And yeah, I'm getting an education, but this was the only way for me to get to school. And my parents couldn't afford to send me here. I know that if I want to go to Syracuse right now and not be a student athlete, my parents couldn't afford it. I mean,
Absolutely. And I'm in that boat right now. I only had to pay for a semester, but yeah, like it's
yeah.
expensive. And that definitely goes into it, is that, hey, like these opportunities wouldn't have been available without sport. And I don't think I would have been able to go to Syracuse without sport. But I would say a majority of the athletes across the country aren't getting paid. And hey, look, if they kick you out the door, it was a free education until they kicked you out the door. And when you try to come back, you're paying the same price everyone else is, sticker price. So
Well, and that's the thing. I think there needs to be rules and regulations, as with anything, to name, image, and likeness, and they have to have the right people doing it. I think that
mhm.
bringing student athletes that had like former student athletes in and forming a committee where they get to help make the decisions because they've been through it. Because I don't believe that people should be making decisions for people that they don't understand, right?
Mhm.
Like they talk about it all the time. Like, is every cop bad? No. When you go into a neighborhood, when you're a cop in a neighborhood that you don't know, that you've never been a part of, that you don't understand, then there could be mistakes being made there. If now I would think, was I a student athlete? No. Was I recruited D3 to play basketball? Yes. Did I play as a student athlete? No. Was I paid as a student athlete? No. Was I Division I? No. But I hang around all of you enough and have spent so many years with you that I feel like on a committee, because I've listened to you for so long and I'm open to this, I feel like I could be an exception to the rule. But if I was sitting on a committee and I was making decisions on NIL for the entire country, I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't want it to just be me, like people that weren't student athletes. I would say, okay, if I'm sitting on this committee, then Aaron needs to sit on this committee. Dungy needs to sit on this committee. Sean Tucker needs to sit on this committee. Like I would want to be with people because I feel that I'm well versed, and if I'm not, I would be, but I'm passionate about it. And I know the difference between if you love it or if you think you love it.
Mhm.
So I think there can be people on that committee, but I think that when that committee is formed, which needs to be formed, and that NIL committee is here in this world, which I think should look at the universal picture, you have to have student athletes there because you've been through it, you've seen it, you've dealt with it. And if I was sitting on the committee, I would look at you and say, well, Aaron, we're talking about this today and you've been through this. So why don't you enlighten me so that I can understand? Because the world we live in today, it's so problematic because people don't say, I don't have the answer, but he does, she does. So let me ask them. We say, I don't have the answer, so I'll just make one up. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to get the answer from anybody else because nobody wants to be the not smartest person in the room, where I would have no problem going, Aaron, you know what it's like to go through this. Take the stage, talk about it, and let's figure it out together.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's why I'm so thankful that I was able to just kind of run into post game and start working here, is because like I've been able to, be put in a position, obviously the director of athlete relations, where I can kind of have those influences and say like, hey, this is what it's like going in as a student athlete. Like this next month, obviously fall camp is starting. Like, hey, the football guys are going to be really hard to reach. So we want to do the campaigns. Let's make sure we do everything possible to make that easier on them, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? And I think dealing in the world of college athletics, the athletes do have a voice, but they don't have enough of a voice. And ultimately, we're the ones playing at the end of the day. There's some great committees who allow student athletes to get their inputs going on, but with NIL and everything included, would love to have the athlete's perspective. DT, if you end up running the NCAA one day, man, I'll be on your short list. You just give me a call. We'll get things figured out.
I would love, the opportunity to really be one of the people that's helping to make these decisions, because I've seen the coach's side and I've seen the coach's loophole. I've seen the student athlete side, I've seen the student athlete loophole, and I've seen schools make it. But the reality of it all is this to me, and this is something that I am not naive to, and I think that people need to stop doing this. And that is the fact that schools make money from, yes, having rich donors that are alumni, but schools make a lot of money beyond having like, let's say you're a school that doesn't have football, like my alma mater, Marywood University, doesn't, but they may have a few donors that are millionaires, right? That can give a lot of money. But more often than not, your student athletes who play the game, who build that program up, and those coaches who build the game and that program up, and all those people that work together that build the game and build that program up, they get those championships. They're the ones that put butts in the seats. They're the ones that help you to be relevant, and they're the ones that make you the money. We talk about academics, and academics is great, and academics is necessary. And I feel like uneducated people in today's America are why we have so many problems. But to be educated is one thing, and to also educate yourself on the fact that your school, more often than not, around this entire country, whatever division you play in and whatever you're doing, your school is directly affected by the student athletes that affect those programs, that affect those fans, that put butts in the seats, that buy the jerseys, that buy the hot dogs, that buy the beers, and that eventually goes back to the school. So without student athletes and without an athletic department, a lot of these colleges and universities would fold. So yes, it is a dance between being academically sound and athletically sound, but you would be crazy to think that a lot of these schools would survive without athletics. And if they wouldn't survive without it, then you need to start treating the people within it correctly.
Yeah, that's a great point to finish. Like, absolutely. And I think that, being an alumni, like there needs to be people who are, reaching out and like, hey, I honestly think that, the future of Syracuse football, where it goes or where it lays, a lot of it is dependent on NIL. And, at that level, can we get guys deals? Can we get them involved? Can we teach them about their brands? And I see the media team doing a lot of creative things in terms of like videography and stuff like that. And I know they always have a great creative team, but just informing guys about NIL, you know what I mean? And, how to get marketing deals, whether or not to sign with an agent, stuff like that is imperative. And now that money's getting in the players' hands, I think that it's needed.
Yeah, and I think we definitely have to take a good hard look at all of this and see the value of what we can do, and obviously learn and grow together. So a final note here from you, Aaron, why somebody should work with Postgame. If I'm a brand, tell me why. If I'm a student athlete, tell me why.
Yeah, so from a brand perspective, we have over 60,000 student athletes on our platform who are more than ready to get themselves involved in NIL with branding opportunities and everything like that. For the athletes, I would just say, we're free to use. We don't take commission. We have an app that's super simple. We get you deals. We're doing some of the largest NIL deals in history. The one we're doing with Crocs right now is certainly one of the largest in terms of how many players we have into it. And we have some campaigns launching right now with some major brands that are going to make some noise in the next few weeks. So definitely stay tuned. The content from the Crocs campaigns are going to be great, but there's some really big news heading up in these next couple of weeks. And I look forward to sharing it with you guys. And again, go SU. I'm an Orangeman for life. So always bleed orange.
Aaron Hackett, Syracuse Orange, Kent State alum, as well as working at Postgame now, doing NIL the right way. This is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from the Cafe Kubal Studios, and we'll be back momentarily after this fast break. Aaron, as always, thank you.
Thank you. Love it.